Hello everyone, I am Dr. Maria Espinola. I am a clinical psychologist, and today I would like to discuss the topic of mentorship and the power that mentorship has on wellness and academic success. In order to speak about this topic, I invited Dr. LaTrice Montgomery, who is a psychologist whose career focus has been research. She has a very impressive background. She earned her PhD at the University of Cincinnati, completed part of her training in the Division of Substance Abuse at the Yale University School of Medicine, and most recently received one of the most competitive awards that a young researcher can receive, which is the K23 Career Development Award from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Now, way before becoming a successful researcher, and at some point during her childhood, she needed the guidance of a mentor. So she became a Cincinnati Youth Collaborative mentee. Today, she's going to tell us her inspiring story. She's going to speak about the challenges she faced growing up and as an adult, and the role that her mentors have played in her success. So why do you choose psychology out of so many other careers?
Great question. So when I was growing up, my parents did foster care, and throughout that process I had an opportunity to meet a lot of great kids, but also saw interactions with social workers and public health specialists and psychologists. And so I was always intrigued by that process and the way that they interacted with children, and just wanting to learn more about their lives and putting things in place to help them overcome any challenges that they may have had. But I also was fascinated by just the resilience and the people going through so many different types of things and being able to excel and graduate and just be happy and be productive in their lives. And so I was always excited to learn more about that process and understand more about behaviors. And so through that, I knew that I wanted to do something related to kind of understanding people and understanding those processes. I didn't really know exactly what that looked like, so I couldn't have told you back then that I wanted to do psychology, but I knew that I wanted to somehow be in that space. And so as I got older and learned a little bit more about the different options, I felt like psychology was a good fit for me. So that's kind of how I got here today.
Wonderful. And then along the way, what kind of challenges do you face?
Yes, many challenges. And so actually I went to elementary school at College Hill, and it was a great school. And then I went to Walnut Hills in 7th and 8th grade. But the transition from elementary school to Walnut Hills was very difficult for me, because I think the way that I studied and the way that I approached learning was different. And so it was a culture shock to have to be up all day and night, doing homework and having to ask questions of people, and because I'm an introvert by nature, so I'm very quiet, and it's very hard for me to open up and ask questions and ask for help. So when I got into a space where I needed to do that, I struggled a bit. And so 7th and 8th grade was very difficult for me at Walnut. It's so difficult that my grades slipped, and I ended up getting kicked out of Walnut Hills in 8th grade. So that was just a complete shock to me, and actually because I knew that I wasn't doing well, but I didn't know that I was at the point where they're like, yeah, don't come back next year. Like, oh, okay. So that was a hard blow for me. And so I ended up going to Aiken, swoop, Falcons out there. I loved Aiken, but I was disappointed in myself because I knew that I started at Walnut, and that's where I wanted to finish. And so while I was at Aiken, I decided to just get my act together, get back on track, and was able to get my grades back up to a point to where I was able to be admitted back into Walnut in 11th grade, and then eventually graduate from there. So it was definitely challenging and shocking when I got kicked out, but it's something that I am proud of myself, because as I look back, even though that was a traumatic moment, I'm proud of myself for turning it around and for still believing in myself and having family and friends that supported me through that process and didn't kind of just say, oh, you got kicked out, and get your life together, and not really provide that support. So I'm thankful for that support system, and of course you're never want to get kicked out of school, but I am glad. I think that it helped me to kind of build character and build that resilience and show me that yes, you can do it, and if you set goals, you can accomplish them.
Wow, very impressive. So what kind of messages these people who supported you gave you?
Good question. So one, I would start with my parents, who are extremely supportive. Even to this day, I still call them like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm like going through this, I need your help. But first, the first thing that they always do is just check in with me and what I want to do. So they've never been the type of parents to push their agenda on me or, their plans for me. They always let me explore and be who I am and figure out, career-wise, personally-wise, like just whatever I wanted to do, they were there. So I found that to be really helpful. So instead of kind of being discouraging, they were like, yes, this is a difficult moment, but you have to kind of go in and go harder now. You know what your struggles are. So my mom in particular, she's she's an extrovert, so she's very outgoing, and so her and my dad both talk with me about the importance of talking to people and networking and not being afraid to ask questions and not being afraid to say I don't know this, because I think for a while just the fear really got to me of just this idea of like, if I ask these questions, how will people look at me? Or am I supposed to know the answers to these things? Or people are probably going to think I'm stupid if I ask these questions. And so that's something that, kind of looking back, I really wish I would have took more to heart. But my parents, they always instilled that in me to just ask questions and realize that I don't know everything, and that none of us knows everything. And so it's okay to do that. And so that was really something like that I really got from my parents. And then also just having great mentors along the way, professional mentors. And so my mentor through the CYC program, when I met her, the first thing she did to me, that's the first thing that sticks out in my mind. So she actually was assigned to me in 11th grade when I was at Walnut Hills. And I remember when I went back to Walnut, I wanted to take an AP psychology course because I told you I was very interested in psychology. So I was excited about this advanced placement course. And so when I looked online and went to talk to the teacher, I learned that the course was full. And so, of course, I was discouraged because I'm like, I really want to take this class. I think it'll be good for me. And so I ended up meeting with my mentor, and she asked me, what classes are you taking this year? So I ran down the list of classes that I was taking, and she was like, well, what about that psychology course that you mentioned? And so I told her the situation, and she was like, no, we're going to go back and we're going to try again. And she's like, we're going to tell them more about your story and about, what your interests are. And, she was like, because when I met you, all you talked about was psychology. She was like, and I don't think, so you have to make sure that you communicate that and that, you're clear on that. So she actually came up to Walnut like one day after school and walked with me to this classroom and said, this is LaTrice, and, introduced me and introduced the passion that she felt when she first met me. And he allowed me in the class. He made an exception, allowed me in the class. I was able to get, it was like a few weeks in, so I was able to get like the books and everything that I needed. And it ended up being one of my favorite classes in high school. And actually to this day, it's probably one of my favorite psychology classes. And so when it was like, I would have missed out on that opportunity had not my mentor said, nope, let's try that again and don't give up so easily on that process. And I think the most important thing that I learned from her is that it's so good to have people that can sometimes see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And that was a moment of just, I think that was probably like the realest moment where it was like, wow, like she really believed in me to the point of where she came up to the school and walked me through the process. And that's something that even when I mentor students, that's something that I always think about, the impact that you have. And even though it might seem like something small in the moment, but it can stick with people for life. And so just having those messages, having people that can, physically walk you into places and be there for you and encourage you, I mean, it's made a world of difference.
I love that story, and it's amazing how mentoring had an impact in your life. So now, as an adult, as a professor, as a researcher, are you mentoring other people? Yes, I am, and it's one of the best parts of my job. And the experience that I described to you, as well as just other mentors, I've had wonderful mentors throughout my undergraduate and graduate experience. And so what I've done is I've kind of just taken like bits and pieces from all the great people that have been in my life and just kind of sprinkled that into my mentoring style.
And so again, kind of what I mentioned before about the the impact that you have. And so always trying to be supportive and encouraging of students. And so I have students now that are at various stages, many of which are in psychology. So there are some undergraduates, there are some in graduate school or on their way to graduate school. And so one, trying to be sensitive to where they are in their training, because I try to think back to when I was in high school or when I was an undergrad, what did I need, or what were my concerns. And so trying to stay in that space, and it's really helpful. And so taking those mentoring styles that I've received over the years, and kind of instilling that in my students as well as I mentor them. And then I guess one of the things that I really, really, really enjoy about mentoring is just being able to see students grow and to kind of come into their own. And so as much as I love providing the guidance and being there for them, but when they come to me and say, hey, I want to try this new thing, or I saw this opportunity and I think I'm going to go for it, those are the moments that are like really inspiring. So right now I have a student that I'm working with who just recently applied to graduate school, and she got in, and I'm excited for her because I know that initially she was trying to think what is the best route for her, but I'm glad she went on ahead and did it and just jumped out there. And that's those kind of stories really, they inspire me and they keep me going and keep me excited. So I'm just blessed to be able to be in a space where I can mentor others, and it's an exciting opportunity. And then also, I think the important thing that I always share with my students is the importance of having multiple mentors, because it's important to get different perspectives. So I have different mentors for different parts of my career, whether it be, balancing work life, that's ever really a thing, I don't know. And then, or like certain professional aspects, some that are more like content oriented. So I think it's something that just continues to happen, and I encourage my students to also work with other people and get that mentorship in any way that they can, and get that support from many different places, because that's extremely important. And as a mentor, I think one of the things that really is exciting to me, in addition to kind of just seeing people grow and kind of come into their own, but then also seeing them go on to mentor other people as well. And so they mentor each other in the lab, and then they go out into the world, and then they mentor people. So it's just like this, like, you kind of feel like you have mentoring people all over the world. You kind of create this circle of support that people can call on throughout their entire career, and I think about programs that I've been in and support that I've received, and I can still call on people from those circles to this day, asking questions or asking for advice or asking for letters of recommendation or, things that you need along the way. So I'm excited to kind of feel like I'm a part of that circle in some sort of ways.
Amazing. Thank you. What wellness tips do you have for young mentees, and especially for the class of 2020?
Great question. So the first thing is, and this is something I've always, just looking back, I wish I would have took a little more seriously in my mind, is that just embrace the times, like embrace being young and really enjoy the moment. And even though, I know this is a very challenging time, and there are definitely, there's a lot of things to be worried about and concerned about and stressed out about, but just embrace, embrace the space, embrace being young, embrace the accomplishment, don't lose sight of it. And I've been seeing like so many different things like on social media about people sharing good news and then they feel bad, like, oh, should I share this during this time? But it's like, no, share that. We need that good news and that good energy. So knowing that people have, worked so hard to get to this point, and just thinking about all the late night studying and all the early mornings waiting for the bus and waiting to get off to school, and just, the tests. And so you've accomplished a lot. And so, embrace that and be excited about that. It's an exciting time. So definitely don't let anything let you lose sight of that. So I think just that mindset is extremely important. But also just to take this time and just think about the idea that, crisis reveals character. And I always say that, and that's something that I think is becoming so much more apparent even in these times. And so one of the things, whether it be, coronavirus or any other crisis or issue that may ever come up, is to think about those issues and think about first of all, acknowledge the fact that there is stress, that there is depression, there are negative things associated with it. But once you've taken the time to acknowledge that, then to begin to move into a space of what is it that you want to see. So there's so many things, especially related to this virus, that we want to see and that we want to see happen and that we wish leadership would engage in or whatever. But think about how you might play a role in that space. Use this time to think about the impact that you can make on the world and what approaches and strategies you might take to say, you know what, I can see myself being in that space and contributing, whether it be related to the virus or not, or related to, health or whatever it might be. But think about your unique space in the world, because this really gives you an opportunity to think about your career goals in a whole new way. Because the world is, I personally don't think that the world is ever going to be the same. And but that can be good for you in terms of innovation and new ways to think about things and new ways to think about your career and the things that you put out there. And so I would say, acknowledge what's happening around you, and it's very true because we don't want to ignore that, but also take some time to embrace, the growth and what you can do and how you can contribute to moving forward in your, personal spaces, in your career, in your personal life. In addition to, I think another just wellness tip for us all, whether, we're young mentees or just, in general, I think is also to kind of check yourself in terms of what you're consuming. So don't get too wrapped up into, coronavirus coverage. And I'm saying this, and I'm saying it to myself as I say it. So it's not just like, 'cause I know some days I'll watch the news and I'll be sucked in for the whole day. And then I'm like, nothing's ever going to change, and I'm never going to go back to work, and things are never going to be the same. And then I'm like, I walk away like, just so discouraged. But I notice that when I, tune out for a little bit and kind of tune into, my goals and the future and things that I can look forward to, my mindset changes a bit. And so at least gives me that, opportunity to kind of have some positive thinking and thinking forward into the future. So I would say, embrace the moment. I know there's a lot of challenges, but and also make sure that if your school is doing like any kind of drive-through graduations or anything that they're doing, whether are like online graduations, make sure you participate in those and still connect with your friends through webinars and phone calls. And so there's still ways that we can stay connected. And so I would say just continue to stay connected with people. Continue to just, try to do the things that you were doing. I know it's a different time and you kind of have to get creative, but it's that creativity that leads to so many great developments. Even when I think back over my career, it's, like even when I started out, I never saw myself doing social media research, but it was through, learning things in my career and seeing like there were certain people who couldn't access, traditional treatment, or there's so many different challenges and things, and sometimes we don't always think about those until we're in a situation where it's like, wow, I guess there's a lot of there's some challenges here, and everyone may not be able to access this, or maybe we can't do it this way anymore. So that's what I'm saying, really take advantage of this time to think about what you want to do and how it might look different and how that might be exciting and ways that you can innovate and create.